Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Hey, we're back with Live from the Heartland for the week of July 10th in the year 2026. Our next guest is someone we've had on the show one or two times before. I go way back with him when he was a wild guy on the streets, and Rising Up Angry and the White Panthers and the Weathermen, and a lot of stuff was happening in Chicago. The one and only Ronald Schulz, Schulz, and he was born in Chicago in 1952. He dropped out to explore the 60s radical counterculture before hitchhiking across Europe and Africa on a roundabout Buddhist pilgrimage to Nepal. Now he's semi-retired, a hobo, writing his honest history of those tumultuous times. He hopes to honor departed friends before he too vanishes from this earthly paradise. He has taken advanced writing classes at the University of Washington. He's the father of two, the grandfather of three, and he believes in living life to the fullest, regardless of circumstances. Hello to you, Ron.
Well, hello there, Michael. Yeah. Well, thank you for that little introduction there. Yeah. So you're just back from some travels, right? Yeah. Yeah. This year has been a year of travel for me. My wife is on a big travel binge. It is sometimes a little overwhelming for me because it seems like we just got back from somewhere and then we're going somewhere else. But in my youth, of course, I traveled on the cheap, to put it mildly, that was before credit cards. You had to have, traveler's checks, which you would judiciously change into the local currencies. Many of those currencies are now unified as euro dollars or euro, whatever. Anyway, the world has changed, and and I'm trying to keep up. Now, going back this year to India and Nepal, of course, I wasn't traveling at all like I had been, and I almost felt like I'm kind of like on a balcony overlooking the culture and the people more or less than I had been, which was the way it was set up, because it was under my wife's organization and auspices, and so I was more of a passenger, but I was able to briefly observe. Anyway, it was very short trip, whereas I would spend weeks, or months somewhere and absorb things. And India is what can I say? And all my life, I've been amazed when I spoke to Indians traveling in other countries like the States who claim there's no poverty in India or whatever, and that's because of their social class protected them from these things. In my earlier visit back in the 70s, I can remember beggars. Not beggars, but encampments of people, some of whom were working in these big hotels just around the corner from these rich hotels, high-class places. Now, I wasn't able, yes and no. There are street people living on the sidewalk now. I did manage to get around a bit in Jaipur and Delhi and so forth. But like I say, it was such a whirlwind in and out thing. But what I've noticed is, the richer enclaves, I guess you would say, have really expanded, especially in Nepal. Now, Nepal went through a lot of changes after my initial journey in 1975. Of course, they had the Maoist insurrection, and then they had this earthquake, which hit downtown Kathmandu pretty hard, and a lot of the shrines, relics of the past had been knocked down. But they've been pretty well put together now. I did manage to see the living goddess this time, which I wasn't able to on my last trip, which is just a kind of like a peekaboo hi and goodbye. But, she's a young lady, which, it's a rotating thing that they do, the cultural thing that they do there, which I understand is not always for the best. Sometimes the women, because they were gods and now they go back to being ordinary women. they're kind of like their life has been kind of like messed up. That's what I understand from reading and talking to people. But as far as the landscape goes, the huge fields and bamboo groves that I had wandered through in the vicinity of Kathmandu are largely, from what I could see, swallowed up by urban sprawl. And it's a relatively wealthy sprawl in a lot of areas too. I mean, I don't like to use words like backward or well, you know, I mean, all these things are loaded words, right? But I mean, people lived, life was simpler for a large percentage of the population that I wandered through back in the 70s. And now, I mean, people are, what can I say, jazzed up, you know? Where, you know, obviously there's more money rolling in from a lot of sources, I guess, but I really don't know the details on that. But yeah, because what little time I was able to wander. Now, with my wife, she wouldn't wander with me thusly, so most of the time I was with her. So I did get like I say, it was a peekaboo visit. I really want to go back and maybe on my own more, or possibly with somebody else who can explore more in the way I prefer, you know, to really get to know the local things. Like, for example, I didn't eat anything from a street stall on this trip, because it wasn't in the cards for me this particular time. But I have to look on the bright side. I was able to take a quick peek at where I had been. And literally, I would be 2 feet from where I used to be. You know, we're talking 50 years ago now. That's a lifetime. And I didn't know where I was. I had no concept of where I was to where I remembered anything. And I would discover that I was literally around the corner. For example, the Bodhnath or Bauda Stupa, whichever pronunciation you want to use, you know, that was like one of the holier Buddhist stupas, shrines in Nepal. And the urban crush has just gone right up to practically the stupa itself. You know, whereas there before, you know, it was a smaller circular village around it. And then there were paths, well, kind of a dirt road, and which, you know, and then paths also that would go from there up to Kopan Monastery, which was where I spent a lot of time with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa back in the day. And they both are deceased currently. And Lama Zopa now has he's interred in a really nice little stupa of his own up there on Kopan Hill. Now, that too is literally surrounded by sprawl. Instead of the fields, the dikes, those small hamlets that I used to wander through and get to know people, it's a different place. You can't call it, I didn't recognize that. But who am I to say? I mean, that's life, you know. We are, events carry us forward whether we want kicking and screaming into the next century or however. And there we have it. So my commentary on that is, well, we try to keep our footing. I think we should try to keep our footing as everything changes around us and not get carried away. But at the same time, we have to accept, I mean, things hope for the best with the changes, the technological and social changes that occur. I mean, the people are still wonderful. They really are, you know, although this time I had a select group only that I was able to interact with, you know, mostly being guides, okay, who some of them support Trump, by the way. Just to let you know that's one of the shocking things I brought back from this. In both India and Nepal, I was I won't say the average person, maybe doesn't even have a clue about it, but I was really shocked when I was able to very carefully and gingerly bring the discussion around to current events, how many people defended Trump. That kind of amazed me, actually. Now, they did it for a lot of the same reasons that in this country, people tend to support not in their best interests, for emotional reasons. This fellow in India, he's a Christian and considers himself a persecuted minority. He was a tourist guide, and he took us around to all the Muslim and Hindu shrines and so forth. But he somehow, now I don't have time to pry into it, but he somehow felt that under the current Indian government, Christians are, it's hard to say they're a persecuted minority for me, because I don't, but he felt that they were a little bit so, somewhat so. And then Trump somehow stood up for them. And I guess the relationship with Trump and the Indian government eased up, whatever it was. I didn't really get a clear idea what he was referring to on that score, but okay, that was there. And then I was surprised to see that also in Nepal, after really, I think 2 days with this guy, hanging around with him, going around to different places. And as the conversation turns to that, yeah, he also said that, again, for all the wrong reasons, supporting our current president. And, well, what can I say about the human race? We're a complicated species here. And sometimes it disappoints me, rather. And a lot of that, including with people I know in my home country here, a lot of people, they're emotionally attached to things, I guess, archaic concepts of I don't know, masculinity, tough guyism, leadership, strong leaders, or something like that, because a lot of people that I would never have guessed to be. Now, of course, again, I haven't really discussed this more recently with some of these people. I'm hoping that more and more people's eyes have been opened, or awareness of reality has crystallized a little better. But like I say, when was I? It was a couple of months ago. Several, that I was in. So that's kind of fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. Well, getting off that topic a little bit, there is a stronger ecological awareness going around the world, even with people who are maybe you wouldn't think of politically aligned or whatever. People are forced to do that because everything is changing in that regard. The heat has increased. People are literally dying all over the world as places, my God, just here in Seattle, we never had a recorded history, that is, the high temperatures that we had a couple of years ago. In the hundreds in Seattle. That's unheard of. And even in Phoenix, where my daughter lives, it surpassed even their desert temperatures. It has been doing that. Has been climbing up there. So it looks like you're wanting to say something there, Michael.
Well, I was going to jump in and I was going to say let's switch to your books.
Sure.
Because you are a prolific writer all of a sudden in your life, and you have is it 4 or 5 of these books about your own experiences turned into kind of novels.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it's a surprise to me too, really. A lot of it is, I've always been interested, in preserving aspects of history. And during a period of layoff back in the 90s, I got into my genealogy because I had time. And that kind of perked me that, hey, what about you? Meaning me, nobody will know about you. My ancestors didn't write much because they were semi-literate mostly. And it's really a kind of a duty that we leave some evidence, some footprints in the sand to later generations. And so I got into this. And, there's a lot of ways to write things. And there's the dry just recording of facts, which dates and facts, which a lot of people, that's why they don't like history, because that's how they get it. It's like, oh, Charlemagne did this on such and such a year and day and whatever. Okay, well, that's cool, but it's nice to put some flesh on the bones, Mm-hmm. And so since I was a participant, imperfect, again, events are happening around you and it's a whirlwind and you're trying to make sense of it. And and every memory is selective also. So there's only so much. That's why we each need to write our own. They're gonna, it's creative nonfiction. By creative, what is that? I'm giving the feel. Oh, okay. As much as possible, I put dates and locations and everything in there as accurately as I can. But I insert dialogue. I insert feelings. The emotional events that you could ignore and just say, this guy walked over here and said this and said that. But then, what's he feeling? What's going on inside that guy's skull? Yeah. So. So I'm doing this from my own perspective. It's too complicated to do it from a multitude of viewpoints. Mm-hmm. That's several books right there. And that's why basically the books I've written have mostly been within the context of 1 year's time, because I go in deep, So you could put it all in one book, but it would be missing a lot, you see. And people who write these War and Peace size, novels or whatever, or memoir or any book, it doesn't matter the genre. It's kind of overwhelming. It's better to break it up. And so that's what I've chosen to do. And I've won some awards. Yeah, and that's nice. Now discovery does it, that's something that's, not really happening yet. That's what I'm working on, because they're out there and I do want people to see it, read it, and think about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I'm a new author. And as the Doors say, people get ugly when you're unknown, or women seem ugly when, when you're unknown, you're unknown. You're just out there. Oh, I don't know. Who is that guy? Mm-hmm. But,
so tell us about each of the books you've got.
Yeah, let's say which would be the one to start with.
I'll start with this one. This is my most recent, but it's actually the furthest back in time. This goes back to 1967. I was a 15-year-old runaway from the Chicago suburbs to New Orleans. And there was a summer of love in San Francisco, which was my preferred destination. But I kept seeing all these magazine articles about how the police were hunting down runaways. They're trying to get into the city. And I thought, well, I got to pass through that. And I don't want it to end as soon as I get out there. So I decided, where's a good place? New Orleans. I've been kind of fascinated with the whole concept of New Orleans. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff on it. I'd read mostly ancient history on it, of course, 1960, and I didn't know what to expect, Jim Crow or whatnot, but I had some interesting times wandering there, mm-hmm. just getting there, as much as I could, smuggling myself in, because I was always worried about getting arrested, a 15-year-old kid wandering around. But I managed to get a job. I was living on Skid Row with, if I may use the term, bums, although they became my people. I felt quite at home in that group. So anyway, that was that book. Now we're going chronologically here. There is another book that is out of print, which I'm not going to mention at the moment. I'm going to have it republished. That's about wandering through California in 1969, basically dropping if I can say, a microdose of LSD and being dropped out on my own, and coming very strong introspective journey into myself in Colorado, and wandering through Taos, New Mexico, Drop City, Colorado, which is near Trinidad, and early exploration of the counterculture, and getting involved with a family, so-called the family commune in Taos, which has a connection with Charles Manson, who I may have met. But you know what? I'm going to cut it there because that book's out of print, and I'm going to redo it. Yeah.
You're mentioning Charles Manson, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about the Karma Farm, because our good friend Lester Doré just passed away.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was going to mention that.
He tells a story of when he worked in San Francisco on the San Francisco Oracle, and Charles Manson came into the room and kind of took it over. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your time at the Karma Farm and what the Karma Farm was?
That's the book that's coming out very soon. I've basically been editing it and involving with my my publisher on it. By the way, I should mention that I'm traditionally published by a small press, Tumbleweed Books in Canada. I'll mention that. And at least these four books are. Okay. And Lester, okay. Karma, that's the book that's coming out. It's called Chasing Karma. And it'll be out, I hope, very soon. And Lester figures prominently in there, along with Skeets and Kay, who you also know. Yeah. They've all gone beyond into the next dimension. And others, we have a lot of other people still with us who are still connected from the farm. They just had a disaster up there. The last remaining couple living on Karma Farm had their house burned down. No. And so they're a whole family. Things have, again, that has transformed great. All the buildings are basically gone there now. I mean, the main lived-in buildings that we had. There's a semi-finished one that Lester had done around the valley, which has been sitting there, home of snakes and other rodents and such. But the barn, over 100 years old, collapsed and is no more. Timber is being salvaged, as I presume. And the house that you visited, may have spent the night there, I don't know. Michael, if you remember.
I spent a lot of time up there. I used to pick up the T-shirts from the Inky Fingers silkscreen press operation. And, I have some fond memories of it. Anyhow, we're running out of time. And we'll have you back, Ron, when your next book comes out. Okay?
Okay. Very soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Right on.
Okay.
Fascinating stories.
Oh, thank you.
And you.